Hi, my name is Brad Ray. I'm a psych and comp sci teacher from Maryland, and I made this site called Xamplr because I felt that my students were relying too heavily on definition memorization. You might have a lot of students that come in and they have this ring of like flashcard definitions that they have memorized, but then they go and they take the test and they don't do well because the test has a lot of these application style questions on it. So I thought that I have to come up with a way that my students can practice application using examples. And this idea has found a home in this web app that I've made called Xamplr. There's currently about 1,600 vocab terms on Xamplr. Maybe around 1,000 of those are psychology, somewhere around 500 are SAT prep, and then a smattering of other subject areas that are in process of being added. So each vocab term on Xamplr has its own page that looks like this, where you can learn, practice, and create examples of the term. The learn stage gives you the term and some alternate forms, the definition, and 3 stock examples of the term. When you feel like you got the basic idea of it, you move into the practice stage, which displays a deck of 10 cards. Each card includes a sentence or two that uses the term or one of its alternate forms. And it's your job to categorize these cards as either being examples, non-examples, definitions, or garbage. You can swipe them with the touchscreen or use the arrows to send them in the direction they need to go. It'll tell you if you're correct or not, because the community marks these as correct or not. So we'll get more into that in a second. You can also report any example that you have as being incorrect, offensive, bad grammar, that sort of thing. In any deck of 10 cards, there are 5 to 7 known cards. That is, that they've been identified by users as being either a real example, a non-example, or the term's definition. The non-examples are made out of real examples of other terms. We've just slipped the term in there. For instance, this is an example of learned helplessness, but learned helplessness is replaced with the word functional fixedness. It also says what it might be down here to activate any sort of previous learning that the learner has done. So we keep score on how well you do on the ones we know about, and at the same time we collect your votes on the ones we don't yet know about. You can review your answers and report examples that you think are bad. And if you get 80% or more of the known cards right, you're allowed to move on to the create stage. All of the examples in Xamplr were written and vetted by users, so it's a crowdsourcing site like Wikipedia, but the difference here is that the practice task harnesses the power of the crowd in voting on whether or not a term is a good example or not. Good examples get approved by users, bad examples get deleted. We only record the votes from the users who get 80% or more correct, so this ensures a fair amount of quality control. Here we're asked to write our own example of this term. The examples I write here will show up in the practice stage decks of other users where they'll be shepherded toward either approval or deletion. Now here's where we get to make a non-example out of a real example of another term. They give us 3 examples of other terms to choose from, and I'm going to choose availability heuristic. It's going to slip the word functional fixedness in there, and that will be our non-example that we've added. So that's how we use the user's intelligence while they practice to bring new examples into our database. From the home page, you can make whole lists of vocab. You can give them details. Once you've made a list, you can go and study each term on that list via this side panel. It keeps track of your progress on a list, showing the completion of the 3 steps of learn, practice, and create. 1, 2, 3. To test your accuracy at identifying examples across a whole list, you can do a Blanxster, which is a rotating carousel of fill-in-the-blank examples from each term on the list. They're all shuffled into the Blanxster, and the fill-in-the-blank shows a drop-down of all the terms on the list. If you get one wrong, you can also ask for a hint. It gives you the definition. And if you're a teacher, you can also assign any of these things to your students. You can set up classes. And enroll students with a join code. Once you have a class created, you can assign vocab lists, Blanxsters, and even SLOs that have a pre and a post test as a Blanxster with a vocab list in the middle. When you make an assignment, you can choose the vocab list that you have, set start and due dates, and give instructions to the student. When you make an assignment, you can check on student progress. You can see completion percentage, and also which terms are giving a student trouble. And you can see which terms are giving the whole class trouble. And you can present slides full of the examples that are giving students trouble. This presentation tool is also available out here on the Teacher Tools page for whenever you don't feel like making a PowerPoint. You can present any list that you have. The presentation lets you flip through the terms on the list using the left and right arrow keys and scroll through the examples of that term using the up and down arrows. If you find an example that you really like, you can favorite it. After favoriting several examples, you can toggle it on so that you only see the favorited examples. This could be useful if you only want to show your students your favorite examples. You can also click the confused face if you run into an example that is confusing or misleading. Once you do this, we'll take a look at it and consider deleting it. On the student end, they see your assignments in their side panel. If it's a list, they're able to look at all of the terms on the list. If it's a Blanxster, they're able to start it and look at their completed percentage. They're also able to unenroll from your course. How to learn more as you navigate the site? There are these question marks at the bottom of almost every page. Clicking the question mark will pop up a YouTube video that will help you learn more about how to use that page. Also, recently we've been adding the College Board AP Psychology CED list to the homepage for easy import. If you import them, they just become one of your lists and you can immediately practice them and assign them to your students. So this has been a big overview of all the things that you can do on Xamplr. I'd love it if you check it out, and if you have any questions about it, you could email me at brad@xamplr.com. Thanks a lot. Happy Xamplin'.